Why does it matter what they look like? You're just fixating on their appearance so you don't have to address their arguments.
He looks like a Velma from Scooby-Doo wannabe. Paul Joseph Watson is one of the most iconic right-wingers on this platform. Like many anti-SJWs, he's right about many topics when it comes to feminism, gender, and migration. But he says some really retarded things. I've always wanted to call out Pajama Watson on Brexit, climate change, support of Russia, and saying that eating a regime will feminize you. But recently, I didn't know where to begin since he's getting dumber and dumber. But what I don't understand is where he gets that stuff. Does he ignore science when he says that depression isn't a thing? Based on all the things he said, I cannot decide what to do a video on. However, recently I found a topic which basically takes the spot for something that he really needs, an education, along with the person who said them. Now the video is quite long and, quite anger-inducing, so I'll just respond to the worst of it here.
Is essentially the Onision of the red pill community.
Love.
I love you more than I've ever loved anyone.
Everyone wants
I
it.
guess you could say I just want to have a meaningful relationship with someone special.
But what happens when you get it? You go completely insane, because love is a mental illness. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about familial or platonic love. I'm talking about obsessional, romantic love. Nietzsche was right. Love is merely the lust for possession. It's a fundamentally instinctive, biological force.
You know, Paul, I wonder if you know what an incel is. It's basically a community on the internet where, guys who can't get actual girlfriends and all they do is complain. I think MGTOW would be your thing. Oh, wait.
Which is why it's kind of bizarre how society exalts it as an idealistic moral good. You can argue that love is a biological necessity, but a moral good? I don't think so. And maybe Nietzsche should have realised that before he caught syphilis from a prostitute and went mad.
We're not even a minute into the video, and PJ is already making me facepalm myself. For any incels watching this, love and lust are not the same thing. Lust, by definition, is a psychological force producing an intense desire for something. It can be for sex, but it doesn't have to be. You can also have a lust for power or money. So if you want to call out lust, then you have a good basis for that, but don't intertwine that with love.
Not good.
Anyway, people think egoism and greed are the opposite of love. Au contraire, love is about possession and assimilation. What could be more egotistic and greedy than trying to possess another human?
And apparently he doesn't know what love is either. What you're explaining is a person becoming a control freak and closing someone off. This is what actually leads to domestic violence in a lot of cases. That is not love, that's just being an abusive person. Love is showing affection for another person, spending time with them, supporting them, and spoiling them. Love has even changed horrible people into becoming better ones. You sound like you're jealous, Paul. What's wrong, PJ? Did you lose the girl you like to someone else?
Romantic love is essentially a base instinct rooted in the reptilian brain, which is only given a sheen of morality or splendor by modern culture, which hijacked it, commercialized it, and warped it out of all proportion.
What you call love was invented by guys like me to sell nylons.
For most of history, romantic love was considered a disease that you had to catch and get over, like chickenpox. Romeo and Juliet wasn't a celebration of love, it was a warning. Same story with Antony and Cleopatra. Dude goes mentally ill from falling in love, then kills himself, then she kills herself.
That's exactly right. Poets and playwrights don't write their work because, it's not what they felt, but it's because they've been paid to do so by the Illuminati, to control the populace. If you actually read any of those plays, you will see that they didn't kill themselves because of love, but because of how the outside world affected their love life. Like Romeo and Juliet, their families were at each other's throats and tried to separate their own children, which is why they pretty much killed themselves. It was the only way they could be together.
What could be more of a burden than being shackled to an irrational beast? What could be more catastrophic to individual identity than the merging of two people?
You complete me.
What could be more enslaving than the complete surrender and devotion to another person at the expense of one's own sanity and free will?
Not good.
Nietzsche said men who are inclined to complete devotion are not men.
Soy boy.
Hey MGTOW, you'll really like this guy a lot. Having a famous InfoWars celebrity will really up your street cred, because having a significant other in your life means that you don't have your own life. You know, that makes perfect sense. Like, shake our palms to that.
The point is this. Romantic love is corrosive, self-sabotaging, inherently delusional for both sexes, and most of the time it ends in abject misery.
Believe me, not good.
Love is a mental illness. It's at times an episodic, transitory, obsessive-compulsive, and emotionally lethal disorder. I believe so strongly in the destructive power of love that it should be the subject of instruction in schools along with sex and driver's ed. Love infects, contaminates, and destroys your will to resist. It destabilizes and knocks you for a loop. It's a singular, single-serve, client-centered, and individually targeted and focused cult.
You know, one thing that I strongly advocate for is the white nuclear family here in the West, because this is the building block of our society, just like any other society. Conservatives understand this and actively fight for the idea of the nuclear family, including our MGTOW candidate. What he and this maniac are suggesting is that we should forbid children from learning about love. They basically want to make a nuclear family without love. Let that sink in for a minute. Congratulations, PJ. You and all your red pill fanboys who agree with you just contradicted yourselves.
I'm just saying, sometimes it's not all it's cracked up to be. So all you incels need to calm your tits.
Side note, this is what I'll be using from now on to signal hypocrisy, since we have an incel wants to call out incels on an incel video.
Romantic love detracts from the only true source of sustained happiness: creativity and self-mastery. The perfect fusion of the Apollonian and the Dionysian. Being in love is like being a substance abuser in need of higher and higher doses. Neural scans show that the early stages of romantic love look like a brain experiencing drug addiction. It's important to stress that long-term stable love is completely distinct from new romantic love, because it lights up different areas of the brain. I think that we're becoming love junkies.
This part of the video alone proves that PJ has never had a real relationship, because he obviously doesn't know that in order to have a long-lasting relationship, you need to start with romantic love. All those nuclear families you defend started with romantic love, and then they led to something more, which then led to a family. Doesn't that make sense to you? Seriously, I thought you were married to Alex Jones. You'd be a good bride, PJ.
Here comes the bride.
Because our brains are being rewired by the internet, and this is why cheating and divorce continues to increase. Humanity has been searching to fill the meaning-shaped hole in its psyche. We try to achieve this partly by engaging in emotional incontinence, by overly emoting and placing too much emphasis on new relationships. Everyone is chasing that initial dopamine rush of new love, and as soon as it fades, we desperately strive to replace it with a fresh source.
Okay, as much as the alt-right fanatics like to complain about how the majority of people are some SJWs who only want one-night stand, that is not the case. You know why? Because it won't fulfill you the same way a relationship will. Basically, any normal person is going to agree with that.
And it's shrinking every year. Why? Social media and dating apps. Over a third of people in a 2014 poll said at least part of the reason why their relationship ended was because their partner had met someone else or was flirting with someone else on social media.
When will this idiocracy stop? Social media doesn't make us cheat on our significant others. If you're an unfaithful cheater, you will cheat regardless of whether you have access to social media or not. Cheating has existed way before social media was even a thing. I met my girlfriend on Tinder not because I was there for a one-night stand, but because I was there to find someone. It's not up to the application, it's up to the person. Social media has even allowed us to meet other people for a relationship, including ones that will blossom into marriage. I would strongly recommend that for you, Paul.
It's a kind of pathology that can lead to self-destruction. And while taking that risk is a biological necessity to foster the urge to procreate, people are refusing to move on to the next stage of stable long-term commitment. Because
okay, I cannot listen to this any longer because I'm going to get a brain aneurysm. The point is that everything in life is a risk. Relationships don't work sometimes, but that has always been the case ever since the beginning of mankind. Technology is not the cause of it. It's just the same people as before. The only difference now is that we have more access to other people. What must be worked on the most is helping people move on with their lives and finding someone else that will fulfill them. Just as Jenna Marbles said years ago. Side note, I am not a Jenna Marbles fan.
I know it's hard to find someone that you like and that likes you back and that you can hang out with and be yourself around. But if it was easy, it wouldn't be any fun. And then you wouldn't learn anything about life either. You'd be an idiot. And you also wouldn't know how awesome that person is if you didn't spend a long time fucking sorting through these dickheads trying to find them. Do me a favor, don't ever make that excuse again.
So my suggestion to PJ is this. Please loosen up and don't be so closed off to relationships. You never know what you will need to make it to the other side with them. I hope this has even shown how some red pill badasses can be just as clueless as the other side. And what's better is that sometimes they can be just as funny.